So with Super Tuesday having wrapped up, and with Hillary Clinton having won 7 out of 11 states, Bernie Sanders only being able to garner 4 victories, the media will undoubtedly try to spin it as Clinton's nomination is essentially inevitable and Bernie Sanders' defeat and surrender is also inevitable. Now, this is just not true because Bernie Sanders has a ton of money. His campaign has raised over $40 million just in the month of February alone. They've got a lot of independent support, a lot of support from young liberals, first-time voters, so they're going to be able to continue for a very long time, especially as the Sanders campaign feels that they're going into more favorable territory. They're finally getting rid of leaving out the South, which has that pro-Clinton minority black vote support down there, and they're going to be going to more liberal West Coast, East Coast, and northern Midwest states, like my own home state of Michigan, which is actually going to be hosting the next Democratic debate this Sunday on CNN, which I will also bring you guys analysis and a breakdown of. But the topic of today's video is a Sanders nomination a realistic possibility? Now, on paper, it's for sure possible. He has the money, he has the support, and he has the favorability going into the more liberal northern eastern coast states as well as the west coast. So he, on paper, can definitely win the nomination. But as we all know, things don't always turn out like how they seem on paper because life would be a lot easier if they did, and it's just not that way. So I personally think that Bernie Sanders is gonna have to find a way, if he's gonna try to have a legitimate chance of winning this nomination, he's gonna have to break that minority firewall, because contrary to what you might see on YouTube comment sections about, oh, Sanders lost those states because Clinton has black people brainwashed into voting against their best interest, which in my opinion is actually a condescending closet racist statement, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But just don't buy into that notion, because the majority of the voting demographic of the Democratic Party is not just white liberals, okay? There's blacks, Hispanics, other minority groups involved in that. And if you cannot get those groups on your side, if you can't get those votes, then it's going to be very hard for you to win the Democratic nomination. So while Bernie Sanders did get only won 4 states today, once again, those were mainly white liberal states. But an advantage he did have in those 4 states is that while Hillary Clinton won the South, those states that Hillary Clinton won, they tend to go red in the general election. They tend to go Republican. So really, Bernie Sanders, you could make an argument, if you're a Sanders supporter, had the better wins, because Colorado, Oklahoma, Vermont, and Minnesota are more like independent, liberal, like swing states that can go either way during a general election. So Bernie Sanders had a pretty decent showing overall. But like I said, that's not the main constituency of the Democratic Party. So if he wants to have this realistic likelihood of winning the Democratic nomination, he's going to have to find a way to reach out to minority voters. Now, I really don't have a definitive answer as to why he's struggling with that. But just from my personal experience, this is just my experience, so other people might have other experiences with it. But as like a black male, just going through some YouTube comment sections, because I like to read the comments on like political videos, like on the Young Turks videos. Like for instance, on the Hillary Clinton won the South Carolina primary video, I noticed like a lot of white liberal Bernie Sanders supporters coming off with this extremely condescending tone, saying that, oh, black people are voting against their best interests in the South. The Clintons have them brainwashed. As if blacks are a type of subhuman group that are incapable and incompetent of choosing someone, even if they are educated on the issues, as if they are incompetent for voting for Hillary Clinton, which I think is, personally for me, is an extreme turnoff to the Bernie Sanders movement. I know you're supposed to vote for a candidate based on that candidate themselves, but I would find it very hard to vote for someone who has a following that's of that type of mentality, because even if they didn't have that intention of really being racist or being prejudiced, that's what it came out as, because it seemed to me that Bernie supporters kind of view blacks as uneducated and ignorant, and that's the only reason they voted for Hillary Clinton. And I know several people in my family and just in my immediate people that I know that completely dispel that notion. So that's just an idiocy and an ignorant statement, to be quite fair with you. So, like I said, that's just one thing that I've noticed that perhaps could be a barrier in terms of Bernie Sanders bringing in black voters. Perhaps his supporters aren't coming off as welcoming to black voters as they could be doing. Also, obviously, just name recognition, which kind of goes into that previous point. Just more blacks and more minority voters in general know of the Clintons more so than Bernie Sanders, which ultimately could be a problem later on for Bernie Sanders. Now, what I think you're going to eventually see, if Bernie Sanders cannot eventually start picking up more delegates and more wins, is that as in the next week or so, after, because there's a bunch of there's 3 primaries and caucuses this weekend. So after in about 2 weeks, if Bernie Sanders is not able to really start turning it around and get a full head of steam, don't be surprised if you see his tone go from kind of attacks on Hillary Clinton's record and Wall Street funding, Goldman Sachs, all of that good stuff, TPP, NAFTA. Don't be surprised if you see it go more towards him going against Donald Trump and trying to kind of working towards uniting the base of the Democratic Party as a sole voice, one force against Donald Trump and the Republicans, who Donald Trump most likely will be the Republican nominee. So don't be surprised if you start seeing that if Bernie Sanders is not able to turn this thing around in the near future, because I can tell you it'll be a lot easier to unite the Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton supporters and Bernie supporters, than it will be on the Republican side to unite, like a Cruz and a Rubio camp, or Cruz and Trump, or something like that. So just be on the lookout for that in the next couple weeks. But just in summary, on paper, Bernie Sanders definitely has an opportunity to turn this thing around, to pick up some key states. But he's going to have to start appealing to more minority voters, and he's going to have to win states that have higher concentration of minority voters. Not just Vermont, not just, your New Hampshires, your Maines, your Colorados, things like that. Even more diverse states like your Michigans, your Ohio's, your Illinois, your Missouri, states like that have these really high minority populations. So once again, I'd like to thank you all for checking out my video. In advance, I'd like to apologize if for the Call of Duty gameplay footage. I still have not gotten my webcam fixed, so I have been forced to use Call of Duty gameplay footage. So that will be the backdrop for this video, as well as for my video on Sunday,